to our new show, Obsessed, a show where we talk about whatever it is we're currently obsessed with. I'm Caitlin Palmer.
I'm Clay.
And we're
Obsessed.
Clay, I am as happy as a little clam, and can you guess why?
Is it because it's Halloween time?
It's because it's October, and today was only regular hot. It wasn't deep hot. It was just...
I don't know that that's the correct term.
Let's start over.
No, you have to keep it now.
No, it's embarrassing. You know, I said deep in an interview with Victoria Shade, and I think Victoria Shade's amazing, and I was embarrassed, but then she loved it, and now we're best friends.
Hey, well, then I guess everything's fine.
So everything worked out in the end. So we are podcasting from home today, and I was so excited that I wrapped myself up in this Halloween blanket, but I think that it's just a little too hot for that. Yeah, so here we are. Clay, how's it going? Baba Yaga, great. People loved it.
Did they, you've heard from the people that loved it?
I've heard from the people. I know the people.
Okay.
Clay. I know our audience.
As long as you've got your ear to the ground, I guess.
I've got my ear to the ground.
I should make a confession.
Oh, yeah?
I literally, until just now, did not even think about having a opening story to talk about.
Well, that's okay. Well, so we're doing something special for a Halloween. You know, we like creepy stuff. We talk about obsessions and mostly cryptids, but we're like, it's October, it's Halloween. Let's do something a little more fun. Although this topic is kind of not fun.
Yeah.
But Halloween is fun.
Yeah, I was going to say your topic is, from what I know anyway. The reason you're doing it is for a fun reason.
It is, because...
the story itself is not super fun.
The story itself is dork. So everyone knows for 29 years we have waited for Hocus Pocus 2. Clay has never seen Hocus Pocus. I have never seen Beetlejuice. We're going to have to remedy this ASAP because it's not okay.
Should I do one on Beetlejuice?
You should. Okay, so spoiler alert. We're going to talk about witches, bitches.
Although we kind of talked about witches last time.
We did, but this is a different kind of witch. And I went back and forth on whether or not I was going to do this topic because we did just do Baba Yaga, or you did Baba Yaga. I just kind of
You were there when I did Baba Yaga.
Yeah, I was there when you did Baba Yaga.
But Hocus Pocus 2 is trending.
Hocus Pocus 2 is trending, and it's pretty good. I was pleasantly surprised.
Wait, you already see it?
Yeah, bitch, I watched it. So... because Clay has never seen it, I'm going to give you a little summary about Hocus Pocus, the first one.
Okay.
300 years ago, the Sanderson sisters stole the lives of the children of Salem. It is said that their stone fence, which still stands today, holds the bones of over 100 children. The townsfolk were getting wise to all the missing children, and who better to blame than the witches who lived in the woods? Winifred, the oldest and wisest sister, found a spell that would give them eternal youth. After all, ladies don't care to discuss their age. They made a mistake when they lured Emily Binks to their cottage. The potion was brewed, and all that was left was to force it down the child's throat. Then the sisters could steal her life force and become young and beautiful once more. What they didn't count on was Thackeray Binks, Emily's brother, was watching the whole thing. He jumped in to save Emily, but not before the sisters drained her of her youth, and thus her life. Still, this angered the sisters. How to punish this foolish boy? Death would be too easy, no. Winifred had something much more sinister in mind. Your punishment, she proclaimed, will not be to die, but to live forever with your guilt. Twist the bones and bend the back. Itchita-copita malaca mystica. Trim him of his baby fat. Itchita-copita magica mystica. Give him fur black as black, just like that. And so the young man was transformed into a black cat, cursed to live forever. The villagers stormed the cottage and found the lifeless Emily, but Thackeray was nowhere to be found. The sisters were hanged for their crime that very night, but not before cursing the town one last time. On All Hallows Eve, when the moon is round, a virgin will summon us from under the ground. As the lifeless witches swayed from the tree, a lone black cat made a promise to himself. He would guard the witch's hut and make sure nobody would ever summon this evil again. For 300 years, he watched and waited. until some brat from LA moves to Salem and summons the sisters back to life, and so begins the beloved Disney movie Hocus Pocus.
Wait, so their whole thing was to, turn him into a cat, but also make him immortal.
Yes. Because to live forever is worse than to die.
What a shitty curse.
So I don't know that it's really spoiler alerts because the movie's almost as old as me. But at what point the cat gets run over by a car and he just like reflates and comes back to life. And he's like, oh man, I hate when that happens.
That's not as bad, though, as if he just couldn't die and then he just had to live with broken bones forever.
That's true. We're going to have to talk to Winifred Sanderson
There's a difference between immortality and indestructibility. Also, the beginning of this plot actually sounds like the plot of Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh my God. Why? Yes. Why
Gruntilda steals Banjo's younger sister and steals her life force to become sexy Gruntilda.
I used to get scared, like, when I would die in Banjo-Kazooie, and then it would show, like, her turn into the little gremlin thing, and then there's, like, sexy Gruntilda.
Right.
And I was always like, yeah. Yes. Actual quote from the game.
Yeah. We might get copyright for that.
Yeah, right? So, fun fact, before we get started in all the dark shit, it was the same animatronic cat who played Salem in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Was also Thackeray Binks.
Was he animatronic? I thought he was a puppet.
He was, well, they used both.
Okay.
They used both. And then some scenes, it's a real cat. You know, movie magic.
Yeah, movie magic.
So, it's an amazing movie. One of my favorites. And now 29 years later, we finally have a sequel. I was really living my best life the other day when I had a Hocus Pocus marathon while eating David Bowie M&Ms and snuggling with the animals. They're not actually David Bowie M&Ms, but you know how they did the M&Ms with the album covers?
Nope.
Okay, well, they did that. And they had the David Bowie Aladdin saying, and I got 2 packs of M&M because I'm a fat ass.
Do they have a version with Metallica's Reload album cover on it?
No, but I wish they did. I'd buy the crap out of that.
People who know.
If you know, you know. IYKYK. Ick-yick.
Ick-yick?
Ick-yick. If you know,
I don't
you know.
like that.
So the movie Hocus Pocus, although it is set in Salem, does not actually talk about the real Salem witch trials. Instead, it opts for the much more palatable story of the Sanderson sisters and their curse. But the real events that did happen in Salem were not so whimsical and musical. What happened in Salem was really a tragedy. Let's talk about it. So there's so much to the Salem witch trials, and some accounts differ. So for time's sake, I don't have every single thing, but I've done my best to kind of hit the high points, the most important parts. So before we get started, Clay, so there's Salem Village and there's Salem Town. So Salem Village is present day Danvers, Massachusetts. That's where things like actually happened.
Gotcha.
Salem, what we know today, was Salem Town. Salem Village was mostly poor farmers, and Salem Town was more of a prosperous port area. They did a lot of trading with London and stuff. They were mostly Puritans. If you don't believe in God or the supernatural, you were an outcast. Religion was a massive part of Salem. Let's jump in our little time machine and go back to 1926. I'm sorry, Shit.
Oh, no, you punched them the wrong year.
Oh, God. Where are we? Okay, now I fixed it.
You don't have the place right either. We're under the ocean.
Oh, no. It's a megalodon. Okay, so now I fixed the time machine. So now we're in 1692. It's really kind of like cold and dreary. The vibes aren't good here. I don't really like it here. But it's 1692. 2 little girls, Elizabeth Parris, who is 9 years old, and Abigail Williams, who is 11. They were the daughter and niece of Mr. Parris, who we'll find out later is a very important person, started displaying some concerning behavior. They would throw themselves on the floor and utter nonsense words, bark like a dog, and contort their bodies in unusual ways, which just kind of sounds like an episode of Bluey to me.
I had a wrong impression about this show.
About Bluey?
Yeah.
Well, it's about the Salem witch trials.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense now.
Yeah, right. The local doctor's diagnosis? Bewitchment. Clearly, these children were possessed by demons.
Naturally.
Anyone who's ever met a child knows that these are all just normal things they freaking do.
Yeah, children are demons.
Yeah, no, children are demons. I mean, they weren't wrong.
There's no excising them from the rest of themselves.
So So on February 29th, under pressure from the magistrates, Jonathan Corwin and John Hawthorne, the girls blamed 3 women for afflicting them. Tituba, the Paris's Caribbean slave, Sarah Good, a homeless beggar, and Sarah Osborne, an elderly, impoverished woman, says the Smithsonian Magazine. So all 3 of these women were brought before the magistrates. Both Sarahs pleaded innocence. They were good Christian women. Tituba, however, admitted to the charges. She said that she signed the dark book, and she told vivid tales of black dogs, red cats, yellow birds, and other kind of witchy symbols. She implicated other women and accused them of also practicing the black arts. So some things that were not taken into consideration about Tituba: she was a woman of color, and she was more likely than not tortured to get a confession.
And that's kind of a thing about torture, actually, is that it doesn't really work.
No.
Someone will tell you anything to get it to stop, and if you're looking for something until you find something, you're going to find misinformation.
And that's almost exactly what I have written here. History's shown us that under duress, immense pain, humiliation, people will say all kinds of things just to make it stop. All 3 women were jailed, and so began the mass hysteria that would become the infamous Salem witch trials. You could be accused of witchcraft for literally anything, even allegedly slamming a door.
Wow.
Right.
I knew things like reading books.
Yes,
or
reading books.
having opinions.
Whoa. Clay.
Or owning land that someone else wanted.
Whoa. Well, you can do those things because you're a white man. So you're fine.
I can say men were accused of witchcraft.
They were.
Less common than women, because
it was.
Women could literally do anything to be.
Well, they're like, I don't know, you're being hysterical. And I'm like, I'll show you hysterical. And then it's like, she's a witch.
I was say there's like a actually good Family Guy joke about it where it's like a girl solves a math problem.
Yeah. Witch.
Witch.
But don't worry. Just admit that you're a witch. Tell the authorities who else was a witch. Repent, and you're good, fam.
Yeah. It's kind of like a game of tag.
Yeah.
Where someone has to be it.
Someone has to be it.
Someone has to be it. You would confess to being a witch, don't give them a name, dead.
Right. If you didn't admit to being a witch, you were almost certainly found guilty and hanged, and your good name was stripped away. You couldn't be buried like in a Christian plot. It was this whole, it was awful. It was really bad. But if you were like, I am in league with the devil, we're BFFs. Talked to him the other day, getting coffee on Thursday. And then they're like, oh yeah, well stop it.
Also, who else is a witch? There's never just one.
And it's like, you know what? This lady, she did say something kind of mean about me. It was definitely, she is 100% a witch.
Yeah, who would say something mean about you?
I know.
Has to be possessed by Satan himself.
Aww. That's very nice of you, but I feel like...
Oh, no, I was playing a part. I wasn't talking about you.
Wow, okay. I can appreciate your honesty. But yeah, deny the charges, face public hanging. So when we think about witches, we kind of think about them being burned at the stake. That's a largely European thing. Here in the States, we hang our witches, you know what I'm saying?
Which is funny, because the whole, point behind the burning is, there were specific ways to kill a witch.
Right. And
but
it was
apparently
to cleanse their souls.
Yeah, apparently you can just kill a witch in the old way.
Yeah, as long as they're dead, it's fine.
You gotta, drown her in a river by tying rocks to her ankles.
Right.
If she lives, she's a witch and we'll hang her.
Right.
If she dies, then she wasn't a witch.
Right. She was innocent.
And our bad.
Yeah, oops, my bad.
But we had to be sure.
Yeah, no, it was for the good of the people. But most of the accused were women of lower socioeconomic status, or just people who were not often seen in church. So the theme of the day was fit in or die, bitch.
Yeah, not much has changed.
Yeah. Accusations of witchcraft spread like wildfire. Martha Corey was a well-known, loyal member of the church. She even faced charges. So if she could be a witch, anyone could be a witch. Her husband, Giles Corey, was like, WTF, no, my wife is not a witch. She's old and frail and a good godly woman in every way. He was then questioned himself and asked to enter a plea. Guilty or innocent? He refused to enter a plea at all. Likely because if he did so and was convicted, which would almost certainly happen, he would lose all his rights to his land and therefore leave nothing behind for his family because the state would take away your stuff. And then, like, your family has no inheritance. So that's believed to be the reason why he wouldn't enter a plea either way, because they can't try you if you do not plea.
I don't think that holds up anymore.
It does not. But in order to move on with the trial, he had to enter a plea, but he stayed strong and he was tortured. He was crushed by stones. They would add more and more weight until finally, after 2 days, he was crushed and he died. This is that famous scene. It's in a lot of the movies where he's like, more stones, or like, more weight. Because they're like, are ye a witch? And he was like, more stones. Oh, and Sarah Good, her daughter was 4 years old. Her name was Dorothy Good. She was jailed. The 4-year-old was jailed, questioned, and her mild little replies were deemed as a confession.
Yeah.
Well, you know how kids are. If you're like, is mommy a walrus? They'll be like, yeah.
Yeah. Just to reply.
Mm-hmm. So it's like,
do you want a spanking? Yeah, because they haven't learned no yet.
Right. Or they're like, no. It's like, is mom not a witch? No. See?
Yeah.
But children, we all know, children are notorious for saying crazy shit. I love when kids curse. It's my favorite. Sarah Good gave birth in jail. Oh, yeah, by the way, she was pregnant.
Very cool.
Yeah. But the child did not survive. She was later hanged. And little Dorothy Good, the 4-year-old, she was also accused of witchcraft. So that's very cool.
Very cool.
Very cool, Puritans. Love white people. Deputy Governor Thomas Danforth and his entourage began attending the hearings, and shit got even realer. Dozens of people were brought in for questioning. It was like crazy. Like, she looked at me funny. Definitely a witch. Smithsonian Magazine says on May 27, 1692, Governor William Phips ordered the establishment of a special court of oyer, which means to hear, and terminer, to decide, for Suffolk, Essex, and Middlesex counties. The first case brought to the
sex.
The first case brought to the special court was Bridget Bishop, an older woman who was known for her gossipy habits and promiscuity. When she asked if she committed witchcraft, Bishop responded, "I am as innocent as the child unborn." The defense must not have been convincing because she was found guilty.
Damn.
And on June 10th, she became the first person hanged on what was later called Gallows Hill. Cotton Mather was a local minister. You probably remember him from the show Salem, which is loosely based on the actual Salem witch trials. The historical Cotton Mather was actually pretty okay. He was a pretty cool guy. He implored the court to stop allowing spectral evidence to be entered. After all, was that truly evidence? Because people would be like, I see demons! And it's like, okay.
Yeah. All right, well, where are they?
All right, where are they? Who did it? It was Sarah Good, wasn't it? It was Sarah Good.
Just say her name. That's all you got to do.
Just say her name.
You don't even have to say it was her. Just say her name.
I'll give you $5 if you accuse somebody of witchcraft.
Yeah, she's like, what the hell is $1?
Right. It had gotten to the point where people were just acting crazy in church, saying they were being afflicted or pinched, and it was absolutely the workings of a witch. Well, we all know when people get together and they kind of start acting out, people are stupid. One time in high school, I got dared to trip, and everyone thought it was the funniest shit. And I'm like, why did I do that?
I once convinced a mutual friend of ours to dress up almost like an aviation pilot with the goggles from our chemistry class and one of the protective capes or whatever, the aprons worn as a cape. And fold up a paper airplane and light it on fire and throw it across the room.
I remember you telling me that.
It was amazing how immediately, as soon as he let go of the paper airplane, he felt just disgust at himself and remorse. Like, it was instantaneous. As soon as he let go of it, he'd put his face in his palms and was just shaking his head like, why did I do that?
He's like, I'll never get into college. But I mean, it's that power of suggestion. People dare you to do stupid shit, and you're trying to fit in, and before you know it, you're lighting a paper airplane on fire, and you're throwing it across the church, and you're being called a witch.
Getting in trouble for the first time in his life, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I was like that.
This is like high school.
Dang.
He's a very good kid,
Aw.
and I convinced him to do some very dumb things.
Clay, you are always bringing out the worst. And
The worst in people.
And the best. But the court deemed the idea of not entering spectral evidence, that was nonsense. And they just continued to hang more people based on accusations and hearsay. Cotton's father, whose name was Increase Mather, which is a super cool name, by the way.
You say increase?
Increase.
So like more Mather than my son.
Yeah.
My son is a watered down version of me.
His son is Decrease Mather. Yeah, like he's just less Mather. You know,
And then his
the
father-
Mather makes the poison.
His father, Mather's complete.
Yeah.
His third and final form.
Right. Well, it's like a Pokemon, you know. The best ones have 3 forms. No, they don't. The best ones have 2. But anyway, so cool name. We love the name Increase. He was the president of Harvard at the time. Harvard existed back then. And agreed with his son. He said, "It were better that 10 suspected witches should escape than 1 innocent person be condemned." I seem to agree with the Mather clan. When Governor Phipp's own wife was charged, he decided maybe the Mathers were onto something. You know, after spectral evidence was no longer allowed, the number of convictions decreased drastically.
Interesting.
At least 200 people were accused. But some were just kind of never followed up on. Like, people would point their fingers and say, oh, she's a witch, but they just never really pursued it. But over
Well, I was going to say, they were busy.
They were busy. So they were like, next week, you.
Next week, we'll hold interrogation.
Yeah.
Where you will confess you're a witch or we'll kill you.
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
And then after you confess you're a witch, we'll probably kill you.
Right. By the time it was all said and done, there were 20 deaths. 19 were convicted and executed, and then 1 person was tortured to death but did not confess, and that was Giles Corey. There were also 4 people who died in prison awaiting trial. So they never got the chance to be hanged because they died in prison. Because this is the 1600s and everything is ass.
Yeah.
So here are a few signs, Clay, that you might be a witch.
Okay.
Witch cakes. Sounds lovely. It's not.
The hell's a witch cake?
They would take the urine of the suspected witch and they would mix it with some kind of grain and bake it and make a little piss cake. And
if it tasted like piss, you were a witch.
Right. Well, they would feed it to a dog, which that's not nice, guys. Don't do that. But they would feed it to a dog.
Here, eat this woman's piss.
Yeah. Here, eat this piss cake.
Eat this piss cake.
So if the dog ate it and convulsed, like had seizures or blah, 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 you're a witch. Usually the dog...
Got pancreatitis from eating a shit ton of...
Right. Like, oh man, the urine levels in your dog's blood are way too high. We don't actually check for urine levels in blood, everybody. That was a joke.
Well, most people aren't eating, piss cakes.
That's disgusting, right? But sometimes the dog would be fine because dogs, especially of this time, kind of ate whatever.
Yeah.
They were fine. And I'm wondering if the dog threw up into the... Was that considered convulsing? What classifies as convulsing? If the dog scratches a flea, is it convulsing?
Yes, probably.
So, yeah,
I
they
mean,
probably did by those.
Again, when you're looking for something.
You're gonna find it. Exactly. I don't know. He shaked his head. Couldn't be these ancient ear mites. Oh, sorry, I forgot. So, yeah, if the dog convulsed, you were a witch. If the dog didn't convulse and was fine, you're probably still a witch. Almost certainly still a witch. Then there were witch treats, which also sounds nice and lovely, but it's not. So it would
made
be
with Dookie.
Yeah, made with Dookie. But it would be any kind
Why
of...
that voice?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm very tired. It's been a long day. So
very Shrekian.
Very Shrekian. But a witch treat was any kind of weird spot. So it could be a mole or a freckle. Areas of the body that are sensitive.
Ah, yes, where the witch's familiar would suckle upon for nourishment. I just forgot they were called witch treats. I thought maybe they were called witch teats.
I did too, and I I don't think that was a error, but I could be wrong.
Maybe Microsoft Word like autocorrect. She's like,
Maybe so.
there's no way she meant to type teat.
Yeah, no, I think it was Bailey Sarian who called it witch treats because it was kind of a joke, like because I'm thinking, ooh, Halloween candy, and I was thinking about all of my M&Ms, and then I was like, witch treats. But then, yeah, like you said, witch cheats.
Yeah. Anyway, weird body nipples.
Yeah, weird body nipples. Ointments. If you had ointment in your home, absolutely you were a witch. Poultice? Don't have that here.
Couldn't do that.
Any kind of ointment, poultice, witchcraft. Books about tarot or palmistry. I mean, that is kind of witchy. But it's,
yeah, probably shouldn't have that.
Yeah, probably shouldn't have that in the 1600s.
In the 1600s.
But pretty benign. I would have 1000% been hanged as a witch because I have a ton of crystals.
A bunch of shiny rocks.
But why? Why was this such a thing? Well, mass hysteria, obviously.
I think people were just bored.
I think so too.
There wasn't TV back then.
No.
They couldn't like blow off steam any other way.
You couldn't have sex.
Yeah, and everything.
Definitely going
if they were a Puritan culture, then there was nothing you could do wasn't a sin.
That's
if
true.
it was even remotely enjoyable.
Right.
It's like, well, that's a sin.
That's a sin.
Except for killing people is apparently not a sin because they did a lot of that. So
well, that's a mission from God. So scientists have now found that there might be a fungal reason. I know how much you love fungi, so I wanted to make sure I talked about this.
yeah, thanks. Cool.
You're welcome. Clay loves mushrooms. They're his favorite. So wheat and rye were two of the main crops that were consumed daily at this time. It's believed that there is a fungus called ergot. It's known to cause ergotism, which is muscle spasms, daze, demeanor, manic symptoms, tremors, paralysis, hallucinations, etc. It's also a component of LSD. So maybe these bitches were tripping balls.
Like I say, I think I heard once about that ergot also being a possible explanation for like the dancing sickness.
Yeah, the dancing sickness, possibly werewolves. I mean, there's all kinds of things that ergot has been attributed to. It's a component LSD, we just said, but more likely this was just an easy way to get rid of undesirable people and paranoia and mob mentality.
Mob mentality will do some stuff.
Most of the women that were blaming each other had some kind of tiff in the past.
I mean, especially if you live in like a village or a town or whatever, back then everyone knew each other.
Absolutely.
Half the time you were all gathered in one building at least once a week.
Right. And if you weren't in that building, oh, you were definitely a witch.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And by the way, I kind of skipped around a little bit with the people. Don't at me. According to the Smithsonian Magazine, following the trials and executions, many involved, like Judge Samuel Sewell, publicly confessed to error and guilt. On January 14th, 1697, the General Court ordered a day of fasting and soul-searching for the tragedy in Salem. In 1702, the court declared the trials unlawful, and in 1711, the colony passed a bill restoring the rights and good names of those accused and granted 600 pounds restitution to their heirs. However, it was not until 1957, more than 250 years later, that Massachusetts formally apologized for the events of 1692. The families of the victims fought to have their good names restored, and it finally happened. 300 years later, the state of Massachusetts exonerated them and publicly proclaimed their innocence. In 1992, on the 300th anniversary of the Salem witch trials, a memorial was built, and it was dedicated by none other than Elie Wiesel. Elie Wiesel is a famous Holocaust survivor and wrote the book Night, and it's very intense.
Okay, I was gonna say I didn't know who that was. So
yeah,
you said the name with like such gusto, as if like I would shit my pants.
Clay can't read. It's kind of an embarrassing thing for him. He doesn't know how to read, so he doesn't read books.
I don't like books.
I love books, but Night is a very tragic, very personal first-hand account of the Holocaust. And it's I don't want to say it's good, like, oh, that's such a good book, but like it's written so well and it's so interesting. And also, don't know if you know about a little play called The Crucible.
No.
Clay. We definitely read it in Miss Bean's class.
I don't.
1,000%.
I didn't have Miss Bean.
Well, Miss High Notes class also read. Okay.
It sounds vaguely familiar,
so
but like many things I learned in high school.
The Crucible is a play, and it's also a movie, but it is based on the Salem witch trials, and it was written by... Hold on while I look it up. Arthur Miller.
You research in real time.
Yes. Arthur Miller. Okay, I thought it was Arthur Miller.
The clicking of her fingernails.
No, you didn't. Shh. No, you didn't. So it was Arthur Miller, but I was like, is it Arthur? What's his last name? It's Arthur Miller. Well, he wrote The Crucible, and The Crucible is about the Salem witch trials, and it's very boring, except for the line where someone was having an affair, and the quote is, "He clutched at my back and sweated like a stallion." And that has always stayed with
I do
me.
Remember now.
Right?
Because we all had a good chuckle at that.
Yes! It's the only thing I remember. Next time I see Miss Bean, because she comes to the vet clinic, I'm going to be like, hey, remember The Crucible? And she'll be like, yeah, I remember The Crucible. And I'll be like, he clutched at my back and sweated like a stallion.
You'll be like, guess what? I used that knowledge for the first time in my life since learning it. I finally found a use for it. You said I would.
You said I would. You always believed in me. But Salem today embraces their witchy past. And this is a place that's dedicated to the memory of the victims. Most places with a dark past try to kind of make it go away or sugarcoat it. But not Salem. There's a red line on the ground, on the pavement, that if you follow it, it'll take you to all the historic Salem sites. The memorial is solemn because the actual location of the graves is unknown. So the memorial also serves as a grave site. Remember, they were hanged as witches. They did not get a formal burial. They did not get a Christian service.
Yeah.
We don't know where these people are actually buried.
Yeah, they might not have been buried at all.
They could have just got kind of thrown
into the woods.
Right, right. So this memorial serves, it's treated like their grave.
Right.
People leave flowers and coins and rocks and just all kinds of little offerings for them.
Some things that would have been seen as witchcraft.
Right,
not too long ago.
Absolutely. And after you get done there, you can go buy a crystal.
I bet there's a coffee shop in that town called the Witch's Brew.
If there's not, I'm going to be really upset.
Like, I guarantee that's a thing.
Oh, almost certainly.
Just knowing how tourism is.
Oh, we're going to have to look that up. But yeah, no, definitely. There has to be. There has to be. So when you first go to this memorial, there are stones with quotes from the accused, such as...
More stones.
More stones. And then there's like a whole bunch of other stones. Would it be messed
up to leave stones at that guy's grave?
Well, probably. Well, okay. Well, we're going to talk about him in just a minute.
Okay. I was going to say, like, me, if I was crushed to death by stones, I'd see the humor.
I would think it was funny.
Yeah, put stones in my grave. That'd be pretty funny.
I would have more stones, like, etched into it, but I would want crystals.
This whole thing was a big F-U to them anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, screw those guys. They suck. But at the beginning, when you go up to the memorial, there are stones, like, on the ground. That have quotes from the accused, such as, "For my life is now in your hands. I am no witch. God knows I am innocent. O Lord, help me." Some of their sentences are cut off by a wall, as a symbol of the indifference of those who accused them. There are benches with the victims' names inscribed on them. Their names are Bridget Bishop, Sarah Good, Elizabeth Howe, Susanna Martin, Rebecca Nurse, Sarah Wilders, George Burroughs, Martha Carrier, John Willard, George Jacob Sr., John Proctor, Alice Parker, Mary Parker, Anne Prudiator, Wilmot Red, Margaret Scott, Samuel Wardwell, Marcia Corey, Mary Easty, Giles Corey.
Do you think there was a Sarah Bad?
Almost certainly.
And she had a mustache.
Oh, definitely. She definitely had a mustache, and she was the only one that was actually a witch.
A witch, yeah.
And she was like, yeah, and then she would like curl her mustache.
Yeah, she only used her witch powers to grow a mustache, though.
Well, that's all she did. I mean, she was a very benevolent witch.
The bad in her last name was that she was kind of a bad witch. She was not very good.
She was a bad witch. She just wasn't good at witching.
Yeah.
She wasn't really good at anything.
Oh, no.
It's the tragedy of Sarah Bad.
Sarah Bad.
Poor Sarah
She
Bad.
couldn't even get accused of witchcraft.
I know. She tried so hard. She was like,
"No,
I'm a witch."
I have
No,
books.
I know you're not.
He's like, I have books.
I know how to read. 1 + 1 = 2.
I got 2 red shawls.
Yeah. Slut. But each of those names, that's the name of a person who was wrongly executed. They had their good name tarnished. They left behind grieving families. They left behind many children. Some of these women had 11 children.
Yeah, it's not really uncommon for the time.
It's not.
Now, how many of those children made it to 15?
Well, that was uncommon
If
for
it was
the time.
still 11, that's an impressive number.
Right? Many of their ancestors still honor their memory today. The place where Giles Corey was pressed to death is now the Howard Street Cemetery, but the actual specific location within this cemetery is unknown. He's not buried there. We really don't know where he was buried because none of them got a good burial. The old jail where all these people were held is now a luxury apartment. Can you imagine living there?
I really thought it was going to be something else. Like
Yeah, no, it's an apartment. Like you can go live there. And it's a luxury apartment and it's expensive AF and it's haunted AF as well. Proctor's Ledge. So we had said Gallows Hill. For the longest time, we thought Gallows Hill was where the gallows were, right?
Right. That makes sense.
Apparently, historians have found that the true location is actually what we know as Proctor's Ledge. That's the actual location of the hangings. There's not a way to know the exact location, but most historians kind of agree it's more likely Proctor's Ledge, and it's now a memorial park. And it's kind of right off the road. It's on kind of like a busy street, so it's a little harder to get there. But I recently found out that there were 3 sisters who were believed to be the inspiration for the Sanderson sisters, although they were based very loosely, just in that they were 3 sisters who were all accused of witchcraft. But what can we learn from this? It's a frustrating story. So many people say how I wish I could go back in time and save them, but my ass would have been hanged for witchcraft immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, immediately. Not everyone shares the same beliefs, and that's okay. I hope we never go back to these ways, and kudos to Salem for their respectful memorial. Last but not least is a quote I found that's been heavy on my noggin. Thanks, Bailey Sarian. That's what she does in her videos. She's like, it's a true crime story that's been heavy on my noggin. I'll never be her. God, she's amazing. But who knows why we were taught to fear the witches and not those who burned them alive? Janice Ian.
I don't think any witches ever burned anyone alive. Certainly they didn't burn as many people alive as people who burned witches alive.
Oh, absolutely not. It's a little bit about the Salem witch trials, Clay.
Okay.
It's kind of sad. I like Hocus Pocus better.
It's a little easier.
It's more palatable.
More palatable.
It's more palatable.
Have you ever heard this? I heard that one of the reasons why the Salem witch trials stopped is because someone accused a dude basically halfway across the country, and he sent them a letter back saying he would sue them if they kept slandering his name, and they're like, oh, and that's one of the things that one of the main components that brought the Salem witch trials to a halt.
And that was Omar's great grandfather.
Might be too many greats. But yeah, I mean, I always think that's funny anyway, because I can see that happening. Like,
right?
Oh, they got money involved. Never mind.
Yeah, no, never mind. Like, lives.
Never mind. He wasn't a witch. I was just kidding.
Yeah, I was joshing you.
I was joshing. I was having a little fun.
Just have a little fun.
I was pulling your leg, since we talked about hangings.
Yeah. And you know, hangings, that's where that saying pulling your leg comes from, because sometimes people wouldn't die. They wouldn't break their neck. And sometimes it was the victim's family who would come and
they were allowed to
kind of try to help you die, because you're just like it's horrible. So Clay, end us on a palate cleanser.
Okay. Slam in the back of my Dragula. If you know, you know.
Dig through the burn through the witches and slam in the back of my Dragula.
Oh God. Hopefully our editor will remove our sins from this plane of existence.
No, he's probably just going to hang us instead. So, Clay, what are you going to talk about next time?
I don't know yet.
Okay, well.
I was going to do Hocus Pocus.
Bullshit. Do not bleep me. That's bullshit.
The people must hear.
The people must know. Do you hear the people?
Here we go again. Oh, I got a couple of good ones.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think I could do. I think we're going to have a little bit of a theme, at least for these October episodes.
Yeah, so. It's spooky season, and we are here.
Maybe I should do Beetlejuice.
Ooh, do Beetlejuice.
I mean, it's a movie.
I don't know. I've never seen Beetlejuice.
But, there's a lot of supernatural elements there.
Yeah. I know there's a black and white striped snake.
I think it's a worm, actually.
Oh, is he a worm?
Pretty sure.
Cool. Okay, everybody. Well, we love you, and we're so proud of you for whatever you've done this week. Thank you for being here. We love you. Stay spooky.